I still am a major star from the standpoint of my past career. I'm never going to have as many parts anymore at this age. We arrived in a courtroom in Maine to do with the custody of our daughter, Barbara.
They called her Hollywood's most difficult star, but nobody knew the real Bette Davis until now. Studio executives tried to silence her. Her own husband bugged her bedroom to catch her with another man. Even worse, the heartbreaking abortion she kept hidden her entire life. And wait till you hear what she really thought about Joan Crawford. These aren't just letters. They're Hollywood's darkest secrets exposed. Bette Davis was born on April 5, 1908, in Lowell, Massachusetts. Her childhood was shaped by a broken home. Her father, Harlow Morell Davis, was cold and distant. Her mother, Ruth Favor, was strict and deeply religious. Their marriage was full of conflict. When they divorced in 1915, Bette was 7 years old. Most children would be heartbroken, but she later said she felt relieved. That moment showed how early she learned to protect herself from pain. After the divorce, her mother raised Bette and her younger sister Bobby alone. She worked as a photographer to support them. Watching her mother take control of the family gave Bette a strong example of female independence. Her father's absence left a space she tried to fill later through relationships with older men. That pattern would follow her for the rest of her life. She got married 4 times. All 4 marriages ended in divorce. Her mother's rules were strict. Bette grew up in a house with old-fashioned values. She once described herself as the most modest virgin who ever walked the earth. This clashed with the image she would later show on screen. She was curious and emotional, but she had no experience with romance or sex. Hollywood in the 1930s was bold and full of flirtation. Bette felt out of place. During her early screen tests, she was asked to lie on a couch while male actors kissed her one after another. She tested 15 men that day and later said she felt like she might die from embarrassment. Meanwhile, on August 18, 1932, she married Harmon Oscar Nelson in Yuma, Arizona. She was 24 years old and still shaped by her mother's rules. The marriage faced problems from the start. Nelson made $100 a week, while Bette made $1,000. That difference caused tension. At the time, husbands controlled their wives' income. She couldn't even buy a house without his permission. Nelson felt threatened by her success. As her fame grew, their relationship broke down. He pressured her to end 2 pregnancies. At that time, abortion was both illegal and dangerous. In 1938, after 7 years of marriage, Nelson filed for divorce. He said she read too much. The New York Times reported that he was upset because she read books and scripts, even when guests were over. Bette didn't argue with the claim, but later she hinted at a deeper reason. During that marriage, she had an affair with aviation tycoon Howard Hughes. When Bette Davis came to Hollywood in 1931, she was just 22 years old and completely unknown. She had no glamour, no fame, and no real welcome. Universal Studios had signed her, but as soon as she arrived, the people in charge thought she was a mistake. Carl Laemmle, who ran the studio, almost fired her on the spot. She was only saved because cinematographer Carl Freund said she had nice eyes that might look good on camera. That tiny compliment gave her one chance, but it didn't last. A few minutes later, Davis overheard Carl Laemmle Jr. say she had about as much sex appeal as Slim Somerville, who was one of the awkward-looking male actors in her first movie, The Bad Sister. She felt crushed, but still tried to fit in. She asked makeup artist Jack Pierce for help. Instead of giving her hope, he listed everything wrong with her appearance. He said her eyelashes were too short, her hair color was dull, and her mouth was too small. He told her she looked like a fat little Dutch girl and had a neck that was too long. He tried to soften it with makeup tips, but the damage was done. Then came the worst moment. During a scene, she had to change a baby's diaper. Nobody told her the baby was a boy. When she saw male genitals for the first time, she turned bright red. On black and white film, her face looked deep gray. She was mortified. Things didn't get better. After filming Wrapped, she and her mother went to a preview in San Bernardino. Davis was so embarrassed by her performance, she left before the movie ended and cried the entire way home. Between 1931 and 1932, she made 5 more films. None were successful. In 1932, Universal dropped her. Her career could have ended right there. But then came George Arliss. He was 63 years old and a respected actor. He chose Davis to star opposite him in The Man Who Played God, which was made by Warner Brothers. It was a surprise decision. Arliss knew he was too old for a love story, so he needed a young actress who could show both love and admiration. After seeing several women, he believed Davis was the only one who could do it. That role changed her life. Makeup artist Perk Westmore told her to bleach her hair blonde. Davis agreed. Later, she said it was the first time she looked like herself on screen. The transformation worked. Jack Warner saw a rough cut of the film and signed her to a 5-year deal starting at $400 a week, which is about $8,400 today. Critics were impressed, too. The Saturday Evening Post praised her beauty and charm and compared her to big stars like Constance Bennett. Arliss himself was shocked by how strong her performance was. In his 1940 autobiography, he said he had expected a nice little role, but Davis gave it real depth. She always credited him for helping her find her place in Hollywood. Even with this breakthrough, Warner Brothers didn't treat her like a major star. They kept giving her weak roles in small films. In 1934, she took a chance with RKO. They offered her the part of Mildred in Of Human Bondage after other actresses turned it down. She played a cruel and unstable woman and gave one of the most intense performances of her career. Critics were stunned. Life magazine called it probably the best performance ever recorded on the screen by a U.S. actress. When the Academy left her off the Oscar nominations list, there was public outrage. Even fellow nominee Norma Shearer pushed for her to be recognized. The Academy responded by allowing write-in votes, the first and only time that has happened. Davis didn't win, but the message was clear. In 1935, Bette Davis finally got the recognition she had been fighting for. That year, she played a troubled and down-on-her-luck actress in Dangerous. The role fit her perfectly, and the performance earned her glowing reviews. Critics saw something powerful in her. E. Arnott Robertson wrote in Picture Post that if Davis had lived 200 or 300 years earlier, she might have been burned as a witch. He said she gave off a kind of energy that felt too strong to be ordinary. The New York Times praised her too. They said she was becoming one of the most interesting actresses in Hollywood. That year, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress, her first Oscar. But Davis didn't feel like celebrating. She believed the award wasn't for Dangerous at all. In her view, it was a delayed thank you for her performance in Of Human Bondage the year before. She called it a consolation prize. Still, the win mattered. It helped secure her place in Hollywood and showed that her talent could not be ignored. In 1936, Bette Davis had just won her first Academy Award for Dangerous. She was one of the most talked-about actresses in Hollywood. At 28 years old, she had the fame most people only dreamed of, but she didn't have control. Warner Brothers chose her scripts. They decided who she worked with. They told her when to show up and what to say, and she had enough of it. At that time, Davis was earning $1,250 a week. It was a good amount of money during the Great Depression, but it was far less than what male stars were making. Jack Warner offered to raise her pay to $2,250 a week. That was an 80% increase. Most actors would have taken it. Davis didn't. Through her agent, Mike Levy, she made a demand that shocked everyone. She asked for $3,500 a week. She wanted the right to do radio work and to act in films outside of Warner Brothers. She also asked for 3 months of vacation each year and to be limited to 4 films annually. She said she was tired of being forced into bad roles. She wanted better scripts, better co-stars, and the freedom to say no. Levy warned her that her demands were too much. Davis didn't care. She believed she was worth it. She said she would not return to work until Warner Brothers gave her a new contract. That was the start of one of the biggest fights between a movie star and a studio. Things got worse fast. Warner Brothers assigned her to star in God's Country and The Woman. It was supposed to be a major Technicolor film. At that time, color cameras were expensive and had to be rented by the day. Every hour the film wasn't being shot cost the studio money. When Davis refused to take the role, Warner Brothers lost time and equipment costs began to rise. They replaced her with Beverly Roberts, but by then, the damage was done. Davis also turned down another film written just for her, Mountain Justice. Jack Warner tried to lure her back with a lie. He told her he had the rights to Gone with the Wind and that she might play the lead. Davis didn't believe him. She snapped back, "Ha, I'll bet it's a pip." In June 1936, Warner Brothers suspended her without pay. Under their contract system, time spent on suspension would be added to the end of the contract. That meant she would owe the studio even more time if she refused to work. Davis saw no way out unless she left the country. One Saturday night in the summer of 1936, she made her escape. She knew legal papers couldn't be served on Sundays, so she waited until late at night. Then she left Hollywood with her husband, Ham Nelson. They flew to Vancouver. From there, they took a train across Canada to Montreal. On September 3, 1936, she boarded the RMS Duchess of Bedford and sailed to England. This wasn't just a vacation. It was a plan. When she got to London, Davis checked into Claridge's Hotel. There she met with producers Ludovico Toy-Plitz and Monty Banks. That same day, she signed a contract to star in I'll Take the Low Road with Maurice Chevalier. The deal was worth $50,000. That was about 10 times more than she would have made in Hollywood for the same time period. News of the deal spread quickly. The press called her the runaway star. People wondered if she was making a bold move or destroying her career. Davis believed that British courts would not support Warner Brothers. Her lawyers argued that the contract was a form of control that had no place in a free country. But Jack Warner was not going to let this go. As soon as he heard the news, he got on a plane to London. On September 9, 1936, Warner Brothers filed a case in the High Court of Justice. They hired Sir Patrick Hastings, one of the most famous lawyers in Britain. The trial began in October 1936. The courtroom was packed, and the British press covered every word. Most papers sided with Warner Brothers. They painted Davis as a spoiled American star who earned more in a week than most people made in a year. In court, Hastings mocked her. He said Davis was a rather naughty young lady who just wanted more money. He even made fun of her claim that she was being treated like a slave. He said, "If anybody wants to put me into perpetual servitude on the basis of that remuneration, I shall prepare to consider it." On October 19, 1936, the court gave its decision. Justice Branson ruled in favor of Warner Brothers. He said Davis had no valid reason to break her contract. He ordered her to pay the studio $80,000 plus legal costs. He also blocked her from working for any other film company, though she was still allowed to take other jobs. Warner Brothers had promised to help with her legal costs, but they didn't. Davis had to borrow money from Bank of America to pay the debt. The case had drained her savings and her energy. Still, she refused to give up. She later said, "I'd lost the battle, but not the war." In 1938, Bette Davis played Julie Marsden in Jezebel. This role changed her career. Warner Brothers had tried to get the rights to Gone with the Wind for Davis, but failed. To make up for it, they gave her Jezebel. It was meant to be a second choice, but it became something much more important. The film had a big budget for the time, $1.25 million. It was directed by William Wyler. Davis was nervous about working with him. Years earlier, he had embarrassed her during a screen test. Before filming started, she brought it up. Wyler didn't even remember it, but he apologized. That honest moment helped build trust between them. Their professional relationship turned into a romance. Davis later said it was one of the great loves of her life. Filming was hard. The role of Julie was emotional and intense. Davis gave everything to it. By the end of the shoot, she was sick from exhaustion. Around the same time, her father died. They had a difficult relationship, and the loss hit her in a complicated way. But despite all of this, she gave a powerful performance. On March 23, 1939, Davis won her second Oscar for Jezebel. In her speech, she thanked Wyler and said he helped her reach new levels as an actress. Their teamwork was strong, and they worked together again on The Letter in 1940 and The Little Foxes in 1941. Both films earned Davis more Oscar nominations. Years later, in 2009, the Library of Congress chose Jezebel for the National Film Registry. It was honored for its cultural and historical value. After Jezebel, Davis reached a new peak. From 1938 to 1942, she earned 5 Oscar nominations in a row. This had never been done before. Only Greer Garson matched it later. From 1941 to 1945, Davis was nominated for Jezebel in 1938, Dark Victory in 1939, The Letter in 1940, The Little Foxes in 1941, and now, Voyager in 1942. Each role showed a different side of her talent. She didn't win every time. In 1939, she lost to Vivien Leigh for Gone with the Wind, the part she had once wanted. In 1942, she lost to Greer Garson for Mrs. Miniver. Still, this was the strongest stretch of her career. She became Warner Brothers' top star and highest-paid actress by 1942. Meanwhile, in 1938, Bette Davis was filming Jezebel when she fell deeply in love with director William Wyler. Their connection was strong from the start. Everyone on set noticed a change in her. The cameramen told her, "You're beautiful, Bette. You must be in love." Gossip columns claimed she was involved with co-star Henry Fonda, but they were wrong. She was looking at Wyler behind the camera, not Fonda in front of it. Their relationship was intense, but difficult. Davis tried to act cool to keep Wyler interested. He struggled to connect with her emotionally. Still, she later said it was the most powerful romance of her life. She called Wyler the love of my life, no question. Even after it ended, the bond stayed with her. That same year, Davis became pregnant. She was still married to Harmon Oscar Nelson, but the baby was Wyler's. Her marriage was already falling apart. Nelson filed for divorce soon after, claiming she cared more about work than her husband. Davis never told Wyler about the pregnancy. She hoped he might propose, but he didn't. She made the painful choice to have an abortion. At the time, abortion was illegal and dangerous. She later said, "I killed a part of myself." After that, their relationship changed. The emotional distance between them grew. In 1940, Wyler returned with a proposal and an ultimatum: marry him within a week or lose him forever. Davis said no. It was a decision she always regretted. Later in 1938, Davis started an affair with Howard Hughes. She was still married but unhappy. About the fling, she said, "I was flattered. I was married. I was bored. I accepted." Her husband suspected something and hired a private investigator. The PI caught Davis and Hughes in bed. Nelson had bugged the house. He even stormed into the bedroom. Hughes tried to punch him, but missed. Nelson had proof of the affair and used it to demand money. He asked Hughes for $70,000 and Davis for $10,000. That was a huge amount in 1938, over $1.5 million today. He threatened to release the tapes. In that era, adultery could end a career. The scandal stayed quiet, but showed up in their divorce, finalized in December 1938 after 7 years of marriage. The affair with Hughes didn't last, but the damage from that year stayed with Davis. So did the memory of Wyler. He was the one she never truly let go. In 1945, Bette Davis met William Grant Sherry at a party in Laguna Beach. She was 37 and already a major star. He was 30, a former Marine and struggling artist. Davis said she liked that he didn't know who she was. That felt honest to her. They married quickly on November 30th, 1945. But even before the wedding, his mother warned Davis that he could be cruel. Soon after they married, the warning proved true. Sherry became violent. He drank heavily and cheated often. Davis started showing up at work with bruises. Her doctor once asked how a smart woman like her could end up with a man like that. Studio executives were also alarmed. By 1949, Davis feared not just for herself, but also for their daughter, Barbara. She finally left him. Their divorce was finalized on July 3, 1950. The settlement included a rare condition. Sherry would receive alimony only if he stayed away from both Davis and their daughter. That same year, Davis's career hit its lowest point. In 1949, Warner Brothers ended her contract after 18 years. Her last film for them was Beyond the Forest. It was a disaster. Critics mocked her performance, especially the line, "What a dump." The film lost about $1.2 million at the box office. Jack Warner called her box office poison. Her earlier film, Winter Meeting, also flopped. It made just $595,000 against a $1.9 million budget. She was 41, and people in Hollywood said her career was over. In 1974, she looked back and said, "I was washed up. Nobody wanted me." But she made a comeback in 1950. That year, Claudette Colbert dropped out of All About Eve after injuring her back. Davis stepped in. She was 42 and ready for a challenge. The film was released on October 13, 1950. Her performance as Margot Channing became a turning point. She didn't change a word of the script. Her line, "Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night," became iconic. The movie made $8.4 million on a $1.4 million budget. It got 14 Oscar nominations and won 6, including Best Picture. Davis was nominated for Best Actress. The role also brought love. She married co-star Gary Merrill on July 28, 1950, just 25 days after her divorce from Sherry. Her career was full of battles, but one of the most famous was her feud with Joan Crawford. It began in 1935 during the filming of Dangerous. Davis fell for her co-star Franchot Tone, but Crawford was already pursuing him. Crawford and Tone got engaged during filming. Davis never forgave her. She once said, "She took him from me. She did it coldly and deliberately." Years later, Davis learned Crawford may have been attracted to her too. Crawford once told a friend, "I wouldn't mind giving her a poke if I was in the right mood." This only added to the tension. Davis called Crawford fake. Crawford said Davis was all mannerisms and no real talent. Davis once joked that Crawford had slept with every man at MGM except Lassie. Crawford said Davis was undisciplined and called her fans a cult. Their feud continued even while filming Whatever Happened to Baby Jane in 1962. Davis played a former child star who had lost her mind. She wanted the character to look disturbing. Makeup artists refused to help her because the look was so extreme. Davis did it herself. She imagined someone who never washed her face and kept piling on makeup. Her look became one of the most shocking in film history. When her daughter saw it, she said, "Oh, Mother, this time you've gone too far." The director wanted her to change it. Davis refused. Either she did it her way or not at all. Even after Crawford died in 1977, Davis didn't hold back. She said, "You should only say the good. Joan Crawford is dead. Good." At age 71, she took on a role that reminded the world just how powerful her performances could be. The year was 1979. The film was Strangers, the story of a mother and daughter. It aired on television, but carried the emotional weight of a major feature. Davis played Lucy Mason, an elderly woman hardened by years of bitterness. Gina Rowlands played Abigail, the daughter she hadn't seen in years. Abigail returns with devastating news. She's dying and wants to make peace before it's too late. What followed was one of the most moving performances of Davis's career. Critics compared the film to Autumn Sonata and Terms of Endearment. They praised the way Davis and Rowlands played off each other with raw emotion, but never lost control. One reviewer called it one of the best made-for-TV films out there. Davis won an Emmy in 1979 for Best Actress in a limited series or special. It was her first Emmy and a major career milestone to stand beside her 2 Oscars. But the Emmy wasn't the only recognition she received around that time. 2 years earlier, on March 1st, 1977, Davis had made history at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Los Angeles. That night, she became the first woman to receive the American Film Institute Lifetime Achievement Award. The ceremony was broadcast to millions. William Wyler, who had directed her in Jezebel, was there to honor her. So were Jane Fonda and Henry Fonda. Even Olivia de Havilland, her longtime rival, came to pay tribute. President Jimmy Carter sent a message of congratulations. Davis was 68 years old and had acted in 87 films. She had broken ground in an industry that didn't make space for strong women. During her speech, she didn't hide who she was. She told the room, "I was the most difficult star Hollywood ever had to deal with. But you know, in this business, if you don't fight, you get nothing." That one moment changed everything. Her career caught fire again. She was suddenly in demand, and just a few years later, her name returned to the spotlight in a way no one expected. In 1981, the song Bette Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes became the best-selling single in America. It stayed at #1 for over 2 months. It introduced Davis to a whole new generation who didn't know her films but knew her name and her legend. Then came the blow she never saw coming. In May 1985, while recovering from major surgery and a stroke, Davis was hit with a betrayal so deep it left a wound she never fully recovered from. Her only biological child, B.D. Hyman, published a tell-all memoir titled My Mother's Keeper. The book was 256 pages of accusations. It painted Davis as a manipulative alcoholic who staged fake suicide attempts and pulled her daughter out of school to serve as her assistant. Unlike Mommy Dearest, which was published after Joan Crawford's death, this book came out while Davis was still alive and working. The timing was cruel. Gary Merrill, Davis's ex-husband and BD's former stepfather, told People magazine the book was motivated by cruelty and greed. Davis told her close companion Catherine Cermak, "This book has killed me." It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the public nature of it. Hyman appeared on television promoting the book, saying she wrote it to help her mother understand her better. That line haunted Davis. She cut off all contact with her daughter and grandson. She removed Hyman from her will. They never spoke again. 2 years later, in 1987, Davis responded in her own book, This and That. She didn't lash out. She wrote an open letter filled with quiet pain. She said, "You constantly inform people that you wrote this book to help me understand you and your way of life better. Your goal was not reached. I am now utterly confused as to who you are or what your way of life is." She questioned the title of the book, saying, "If it refers to money, if my memory serves me right, I've been your keeper all these many years." She signed the letter with her birth name, Ruth Elizabeth, distancing herself from the name her daughter had used to sell books. She told her friends she would never recover from that book the way she had recovered from her stroke. Her adopted son, Michael Merrill, stood by her. He honored her wishes and severed all ties with Hyman. He remained loyal to Davis until the end. Bette Davis died on October 6, 1989, in Neuilly-sur-Seine, France. She was 81 years old. She left behind a legacy of unforgettable performances and fearless honesty. And recently, 2 of her important letters came to light. In June 1936, just a few months after winning her first Academy Award, Bette Davis sat down and wrote a letter to Jack Warner. It wasn't angry or emotional. It was smart, careful, and honest. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She laid everything out with clarity. Davis told Warner there were things she needed to keep her work meaningful. She wanted the chance to work with other studios. That was a bold request at the time. Contracts were tight, and studios kept actors under close control. But Davis explained her reasons clearly. She said she thrived on change. She liked new challenges. She enjoyed working with different directors and different casts. Variety kept her sharp. She also asked for 3 months off each year to travel. That wasn't just about vacation. She believed time away would help her return stronger. It would benefit her and the studio. She even offered to take less money in exchange for more freedom. That showed how much she valued control over her own career. Near the end of the letter, she said something that captured the heart of the entertainment business. She wrote that in an industry ruled by public opinion, actors needed to earn while they were still in demand. Because once the public moved on, it was already too late. 3 years later, she wrote another letter. This time, it wasn't polite. It was raw, honest, exhausted. It was September 1st, 1939. She was in Franconia, New Hampshire, trying to rest after one of the most intense work periods of her life. In just 1 year, she had made 5 major films: Dark Victory, Jezebel, Juarez, The Old Maid, and The Private Lives of Elizabeth and Essex. That kind of schedule was punishing. In her letter, she said flat out that her contract was ridiculous. She said she had no protection and no control over her own time. She made it clear that she needed rest between projects. 2 films per year, maybe 3 at most, if the conditions were right. But the most powerful part of that letter wasn't about film. It was about health. She wrote that health was one thing that couldn't be manufactured. She was serious about hers, serious enough to risk losing work in order to protect it. That kind of statement was rare in Hollywood. Stars were expected to stay quiet and keep going, no matter the cost. But Davis wouldn't play by those rules.